The Hornets are looking to finish strong on a 4-game homestand before heading out for a 3-game Eastern Conference road trip. Head coach James Borrego sits down and discusses advanced statistics as well as giving his thoughts on a name for the second unit. This is the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Welcome to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. I'm Matt Ruchinski, joined by Chris Kroger. We'll be having Coach James Borrego joining us here momentarily. But first, Chris, looking pretty good right now. This team is solid, 5-5. Got the record evened out again after another big victory. We're now going into tonight against the Atlanta Hawks with the chance to end this homestand 3-1.
Yeah, it's big, and I think if you go back and you look and you'd say the 4-game road trip the Hornets embarked on before they opened up this homestand and went 2-2, had an opportunity to go 3-1 on that trip, just barely let it slip away with that loss in Chicago. I'd say the same is probably true of Atlanta tonight, right? If you go 2-2 in this homestand, it'd be good. 3-1 would be great. Yep. And I think if you can close this one out tonight, I think these are the types of games you look back and everybody says, oh, it's a long season, 82 games. Yes, but all games matter the same. And if you go back in March and April and say, well, the Hornets were just a little bit outside of the playoff picture, well, a game like this, I think, tends to decide it. So Atlanta is a team that is in the division. Obviously, the Hornets swept the season series a year ago, has had a lot of success with just one loss over the last 2 seasons with Atlanta. I think you got to find a way to win this game tonight. It's not going to be easy. They're an NBA team. Trae Young's playing well. They got some good young guys. Vince Carter's been in the league for 21 years. He's doing it again tonight, but you got to find a way to get this one.
After the loss to Oklahoma City, wondering how are we going to close out this homestand. Bounced back nicely last game against the Cavaliers. How impressive would it be to get another win heading out on the road? I
think it'd be huge, and I thought JB, it was really interesting. I was struck by his demeanor and his tenor after the loss to OKC, where a lot of people, I think, thought, man, a 19-point loss, how do you, or 19-point lead, how do you let that turn into a loss? Well, Russell Westbrook's the answer. The guy was 6 of 7 in the fourth quarter. He's one of the elite players, an MVP 2 seasons ago in the NBA. He's averaged a triple-double each of the last 2 seasons. You know what he can do, right? And JB was basically saying, guys, we lost this game because we let them get into this game. We didn't lose it by losing a last possession. We lost by not letting that lead stay at 12 or 14 or 16. And I thought you saw in the third quarter on Saturday night, Cleveland start to battle back in. Kyle Korver was starting to get hot. J.R. Smith was starting to cook a little bit. And he put the bench unit in and said, enough. I know I can count on you guys. You guys are going to go get me that lead back that I need. The Hornets pushed it out, ultimately led by 30-plus and went for a 32-point win. So I thought that was the learning experience from that loss. As much as you might not think of it that way, I think that's a lesson learned from what happened Thursday against OKC.
And you mentioned that bench unit. Not oftentimes in the NBA do you see 5 guys come off a bench and score double figures in one game. We had that happen against Cleveland. How good is this bench right now?
I think they're one of the top bench units in the NBA. I mean, scoring-wise, we know they're second best in the NBA. They lead the NBA in blocks off the bench, top 5 in rebounding off the bench as well. They're the group that I really like out there, and they mix and match. You know, all these guys don't play together at the same time, but when they do, you're talking about Tony Parker, Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, MKG, and Billy Hernan-Gomez. That unit has a defensive rating, points per 100 possessions, of 92.1. That's the makings of beyond an elite defense. So you can talk about scoring with Miles and Tony and Malik, and they've got that potential to them too. But they come in and they play defense together. And I think it's the Tony Parker effect. He gets that group organized, and he doesn't accept anything less than the best. So if you're out on the court with him, you better bring it. And if you're not, he's going to let you know about it. And you want to talk about coach on the floor? I think he's that. But he's just such a leader, and I think everybody else kind of follows his lead, and they fall in line behind him.
All right, well, there's Kroger's take. Those are my takes. But the guy you're here to see is going to be joining us next. Head coach James Borrego will be joining us next here on the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
We were at the game, and we heard how the announcer pumps everybody up. And we said, let's try it at the office and see what happens.
Oh, recycle!
This looks great.
Thank you.
Collaboration. Email sent.
I think it's working.
That's taking charge.
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. We're being joined now by head coach James Borrego. Coach, welcome to the show. It's been another week. Time to sit down and talk to Matt and Chris again. I know you're excited.
Huh? The weeks go by fast.
Yeah. We have a chance. We have a chance tonight to close this homestand 3-1 overall. Just kind of talk about the team and where you're at as you head into this Atlanta game.
Well, I think we're in a pretty good place right now. 10 games in. We're starting to build an identity now. I think we have a good group starting the game. That group's been solid for us. They've been a plus for us. They're getting better. They're trying to figure themselves out as well as we go, but I think they're making major strides here over the last couple of games. And then we have a bench unit, and I think they have an identity now. They know what they need to come in and give us on the offensive end, on the defensive end. The combination of your starting and your bench, that's a good formula for a good team. And I think we've had a couple good games here. Obviously, the OKC game was a disappointing ending, but I think we played well. We responded well in the Cleveland game.
Let's talk about that for a second, because this team is 1-4 in games decided by 4 points or less. Tony was saying the other day he takes that personal. He came here to change that because this team has struggled in late game situations over the last couple of years. How much of a learning curve is that with you and your staff, but also all the new faces on this team and all the new roles that everybody are asked to play? Because it's not going to snap your fingers and just happen.
Right.
And what kind of progress do you feel like you're making towards that right now?
Well, we're spending a lot of time, on end-of-game situations. What are we running? Who are we going to? What different lineups, different combinations. We can play big, play small. And we've tried it all during the games, but we're trying to refine it in practice. But there is no magic play. There's not like, a new coach comes in and he's going to drop a magic play and all of a sudden you're a good end-of-game team. A lot of times what it comes down to is somebody's got to make a play, make a shot. And the better shots you get, obviously the better possession and the better chance you have to make a shot. So we got to execute on both ends of the floor. We're talking about it every single day in practice. We're watching it on film. Obviously we're just working through it, and when we get into those moments, being comfortable, more comfortable in what we're trying to accomplish in the game. And having the right group out there is, a major importance. So I'm trying to find a rhythm there in the game. We worked on it a lot today, looked at different combinations. We're going to have to sub during timeouts, sub during dead ball situations to get the right offense or defense on the floor. But I think we're in a better place now than we were, a couple of weeks ago. And we'll continue to work through this end-of-game situation.
Coach, you mentioned wanting to find the right groups, wanting to find the right people out on the court together. Here on the Hornets.com Coaches Show, sometimes we're going to go off and talk about some different type of things. Today we wanted to kind of touch on advanced stats. We know how important those things are in helping maybe figure out what these best groups together are. So when we're looking at the Hornets advanced stats, what those are for the fans, just so they know, is it's when you're kind of looking at 100 possessions per game. So you're taking and leveling the playing field for teams that might play fast versus teams that might play a slower pace to kind of really figure out where teams rank according to other teams. When we're looking at it right now, we're 115 on team offensive ranking right now, 115.1, which ranks us at second in the league. We're at 107.7 on defense, which ranks us 12th. How do you feel about those numbers, and how confident does that make you where this team is at right now?
Well, I like where we're at numbers-wise. We obviously track those numbers every single day, look at them. It gives us sort of a barometer of where we're at, what we're trying to accomplish. But, to be second in the NBA offensively, I feel good there. And I think, going into the training camp, coming into training camp, I felt like our offense was ahead of our defense. I didn't know we would move this quickly at this pace offensively. So I'm proud of our guys. They've really bought into what we're trying to do offensively, moving the ball, sharing the ball, playing with more pace, getting to the rim, shooting threes. I think we built a nice identity there offensively. I was a little surprised at our turnovers. I thought our turnovers would be up, right now, because there's more guys touching the ball, there's more movement, more possessions. We're actually holding pretty strong at number 2 right now in turnovers. So we're really low on turnovers, getting good shots, playing with good pace. So that's a major number for us, is what we're looking at in our offense. And then defensively, any elite team in the NBA is really near the top 10 in both categories. Being 12th defensively is not a bad place to be. We obviously want to be in the top 10. That's the goal, every single week when we track these numbers. We want to be a top 10 defense, top 10 offense. most times that's going to be a top 10 team in the NBA. So, you know, we're knocking on the door there. We're getting better. We're tracking those numbers. We're a work in progress defensively as well, but I think we're finding the right groups out there. Our starters have got us off to a good start. I give our starters a lot of credit. They've defended very well, and they've really set the tone for us to start games defensively.
And one of the guys that I think you've asked a lot of, not only offensively but defensively, is Jeremy Lamb. And now him being in the starting lineup. He did it for the first 15 games of last season, but to do this consistently night in and night out, and out on the wing where you're likely defending one of the top 2 players on an opposing team, what have you seen from Jeremy and how he stepped up to that challenge?
Well, that was one of the biggest questions going into this season, was who's going to be our starting 2 guard, you know, and I think Lamb was in the mix, and, you know, obviously Monk, and, you know, looking at Batum going back there. So we had a number of bodies to look at, but you know, the question I had is, could he defend at this level, especially as a starter in this league? To your point, it's a major position. Most nights that's a heck of an offensive player every single night, and I think he's handled himself well. He's gotten better. He brings us great length, good size. He's navigating through screens. He's competing defensively. All I've asked him to do is just compete. When I sat down with Jeremy this summer, when we were looking at this roster and saying, where do you fit, and why haven't you been a starter in the NBA? You know, why haven't you been a consistent starter? And I think we've all we brought it back to the defensive end, and we've challenged him. I've challenged him, and I think he's responded. He's done great. You know, he's a work in progress too. He knows that, and I know that. But he's giving us everything he has defensively. He's rebounding it at a nice clip. I think he's getting almost 4 defensive rebounds per game, which allows us to run and push the pace. When those guys rebound and run, we're a much better offense. So it all starts with our defense, and a lot of that is with Jeremy Lamb.
And a lot of these things also kind of push towards plus minus, a stat that started being tracked in the NBA just recently. Right now you guys are at 7.6 plus 7.6 out on the court, which is 6th in the league. But like you said, the starters right now are at a 4.6. The reserves are at 3.0. That has to give you confidence that when the reserves come in, you're not losing much at all.
That's right. I mean, you know, I didn't expect this production from the bench this early. You know, where most times your bench is a work in progress, and I think we found a nice little group that we've gone to. Obviously, we've got to keep it up, but this is a good balance for us. Having a starting unit that's plus at that number, having a bench that's at plus is a positive. Where a lot of teams, you know, you're just trying to stay even. Either the starters aren't good and the bench has to come in and make up for it, or vice versa. Right now, we're both plus, and that's pushing the pace. That's pushing the lead for us most nights. So I give our starters a lot of credit again. It really starts with them. When they set the tone for us on both ends of the floor, we're a much better team. When the reserves can come in and extend a lead, we're a much better team. Instead of having to catch us up. Now, when we need to, some nights the starters may not have it, or that first unit for the opponent comes out and dings us for a couple threes early. It's going to be on the reserves to make up that ground, but I feel very confident going to the bench right now. That group comes in with a lot of energy, a lot of purpose on both ends of the floor, and my belief is that we're only going to get better from here on both ends.
Outscoring opposing benches by 22 points in 39 minutes on the floor together. When you talk about Tony and Malik and Miles and MKG and Billy, so they produced, right? Their defensive rating, I think, is, when I've seen it, 92.1 for that 5-man lineup, and that to me says a lot. And we saw it even on Saturday night against Cleveland. Cleveland started to get hot. You went to the bench early in the third quarter, and they just grabbed the momentum in that game and squelched it out right then and there.
Right. And I think they're a change-up to what we're doing in the first unit. We look different. When we bring guys in off the bench, Tony looks different. Some nights we're going to play Kemba and Tony together. To your point, we went to that unit pretty quickly there in the third quarter with Tony and Kemba playing together. We brought MKG in and Billy, and they're just a different feel than the starters. And when we go back to the starting unit, that's a different feel. So we're trying to keep teams off balance. We look different from our starters to our bench, but that's good. You don't want to look the same in both units. But our second unit has come in, been a great plus for us on that offensive end, and to your point, the defense has been really solid.
Now, the second unit is also leading the league in blocks and assists, so that also shows a lot of those hustle stats. What have you seen from the hustle of these guys when they get out there?
Well, you know, MKG comes in with great energy. I think once we put him in the game, it's really the tempo and the pace of the game changes on both ends. You know, he's going to attack the rim, block shots, rebound, run. He brings us great energy. Miles does the same thing. Miles, great energy, athleticism. And Malik's, you know, comes in with great energy too, especially on the offensive end. We're working on the defense, but he brings a lot to our offensive game to push the pace. So there's athleticism out there. Those guys are moving the ball, sharing the ball. The assist numbers, that's a great number. You know, not a lot of bench units you can look at that are saying they're moving the ball, they're sharing the ball. Our unit does that, and it really starts with Tony Parker. He's really set the tone for that second unit, comes out, moves the ball, hits the open man, gets to the paint, finds open shooters, and it's just contagious. You know, it's a term we use a lot as being infectious. You know, when one guy starts moving the ball, the next guy starts moving the ball. When one guy's blocking a shot, the next guy's going to try to block a shot. When one guy rebounds, the next guy wants to rebound, and that's the type of culture we're trying to create here. It's just sort of this infectious spirit and ability to go out there and impact the game.
Well, and you talk about Tony. I mean, what more can you say? 19,000 points scored in his career now. One of 7 international players to reach that mark. He did that last week. One of 3 active in the NBA to do it with Dirk and Powell. So he's in elite territory, right? But I think the thing, and you mentioned this during your media availability the other day, that gets lost on folks. This is a new role for Tony. Coming into this season, he had come off the bench just 47 games in his career, and a bulk of those were after the All-Star break last season. So, yes, we're not surprised, I think, that he's playing well, that he has these leadership qualities, but this is new for him to be a backup point guard in the NBA, and he's taking this job and running with it.
Yeah, I think we all, take that for granted. This is not easy. You're talking about a Hall of Famer, 17-year starter in the NBA, all the numbers you just gave out, and then to say, okay, now you're coming off the bench, and it's a mentality, it's the physical body going, okay, now I got to come in cold off the bench. It's different. It feels different, and I give him a lot of credit. Just the mental strength, the physical strength that he's put in to help us in this role and to accept this role and want this role and embrace this role. It just speaks to the character, the type of person he is. So, that's not easy. I don't know how many, I can't think of too many people in this role, how they would handle it. And I don't think we've seen this very often, 17, 18 years in, to accept this role and still be so productive at this stage.
Now, Coach, one thing we didn't tell you before you came on, this show here, you're actually here really to settle a debate. Honestly, that's
it's a big
really
one
the
too.
main
Actually,
reason that we're here, because whether or not you realize that the bench has been blowing up in social media. Fans of this team they're all about this Hornets bench. They're talking about it nonstop.
Okay.
We're loving to hear what they have to say. Aaron Pitzenberger, our social media senior manager, kind of started a little internal war between herself and Chris Kroger.
Well, full disclosure, I started a nickname.
True.
Okay,
That's true. He did. He started the first tweet.
I tossed out a nickname, and I wanted to see what people thought about it. It got some decent response. I think it was decent. And then Erin punched back with a nickname of her own, which is fine, right? Okay. But and then we got some fan recognition too.
So this is what we're going to do. We're not going to tell them who told which name.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to disclose. Yep. I'm just going to give you the 2 names, and you tell us which ones you like. And then Chris also has some other ones that people have brought up on. So
no leading the witness on this.
No leading the witness on this. There's the Killer Bees.
But this is a no-win situation.
Right. That's true.
Well, they're all great. No, they're all great nominees.
There's no doubt. We're definitely putting
for the good of the bench.
Yes.
For the good of the bench.
For the good of our fan base, Coach.
Our fans, yes.
All right.
Our fans want this.
So we've got the Killer Bees, or we've got the Bench Swarmers.
The Killer Bees
or the bench Swarmers.
Wow.
See, at least he likes.
I mean, you could ruminate on it for a second if you need. I mean, if you want to.
Right.
Yeah. We also had, Bench Force 1 is another one.
Killer Bees is solid. What was the other one?
Bench Force 1 has been thrown out there. That's been used in the past with our bench.
I do like the term swarm, though.
Okay.
I like the term swarm. So it was Killer Bees and Bench Swarmers. We also
Swarmers.
Playing off of Bench Warmers, Bench Swarmers.
Swarmers, is that a real word?
Swarm?
Yeah. Well, we use swarm all the time for the Hornets.
Are we making up words here?
A swarmer is not a noun. That is not a thing.
Swarmers in the dictionary.
I don't think
There's no way it's in the dictionary. No, there is no swarmer.
Not in the dictionary.
No, I don't think.
Making that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's in Webster's. No, but I don't think it's out of the realm of usage.
Swarmers.
Killer Bees. You got a B squad, right? Your B unit. playing into the the Hornet insect mentality.
Somebody also brought up Second Sting.
Second Sting is another one, yeah.
That was kind of creative as well.
I'll go with Killer Bees.
Killer Bees is what you're settling on right now. Okay, do you want to give it? There he goes. There's the fist pump.
That's a fist pump of success right there.
I love the term swarm. So
they're both great, though. Can we agree on this?
Maybe we can combine these in some way, shape, or form. The
emerging
bee swarm. I don't know.
Is your vote the end all be all? Because we could, I don't know, we could throw this up on
it's definitely not.
Okay.
Now, have the fans voted on this?
No.
No. This started internally after the game.
Fans to vote.
Well, today is election day. So here's the thing, right? Like we've got the electoral college in our country, right? So general vote doesn't necessarily determine who wins or loses. I think your vote should carry some sort of electoral count.
That's true.
You're the coach, so it should be weighted more, right? But we could have fan votes too, I think.
I like that. Yeah. Election day voting. I'm down with that. I think that's where we're going to go.
That's right. Go vote.
Rock the vote.
Go vote. All right. Midterms and bench unit.
But just note that he said Killer Bees, right? That actually happened.
It's on film. Okay. Everybody's going to see it. That's for sure. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Coach. We really appreciate it. We'll be back with more on the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Hey, Hugo, before we do this job swap, can you show me how this half-court shot thing goes? I'm not the most experienced with basketball. Yeah? Okay, great. Okay. All right, so I bend my knees. Oh, arms up. Oh, I'm glad I didn't ask you to show me how to dunk. How do I get down?
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. I'm Matt Rachinsky. Chris, we're about to finish out against the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Yep. Then we head out on the road for 3 more games, and I don't see Chris for over a week. This is when I start
You miss
wondering.
me. I know.
Yes,
it's okay. I miss you too.
For sure. But what is going to be the key tonight to get a win and then follow it up and head out on the road and be strong?
I just think you got to bring that mindset, right? You saw it against Cleveland. Come out early, set the tone. I think this team's got to impose their will physically on Atlanta. It's an Atlanta team that, by the way, gets up as many threes as any team in the NBA. They want to play beyond the three-point line. So if you're the Hornets, run them off the three-point line, force them to go to the basket, and see if they can man up against you tonight. So that's where it starts, and I think if the Hornets follow that game plan, I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll get a win tonight. And then beyond that, I think these are the types of games, again, coming up where you look at Philly. Philly coming into Tuesday hasn't won on the road, but they're undefeated at home. It's such a weird team. Hornets lost by just a single point in Philly a couple weeks ago. They'll have an opportunity to get some revenge. You got Detroit, a team that I think the Hornets are jockeying for playoff positioning with right now, and Cleveland, a team that obviously we saw a 32-point win against. So again, it's hard to win in the NBA, especially on the road. Could you go 2-1 on this trip? I think it's up for grabs, right? And if you're the Hornets, I think that's got to be the goal. Take 2 or 3 on the road and really vault yourself into the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference and make a statement.
Be great to make up some ground on the road. But then when we come back, we've got 2 great games lined up. First, on November 17th, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be here. I feel like we're only playing Philly in the first month or so of the season, but they'll be back here on the 17th. But they're not the only ones who will be back here. We're also going to have 8 of the 10 folks that were voted to the top 10 on the Hornets 30th anniversary team all in attendance. It's going to be great to see those guys. Fans, you have to get out here to check out these guys. They're going to be addressing the crowd, and we'll be giving out t-shirts as well.
And the Classic Court is back. We haven't seen it. Actually, it'll be a month to the date since we saw the Classic Court, October 17th. Home opener. A month later, we'll see it down, and the white pinstripe uniforms are going to be back. But man, that Classic Court, I swear, it sucked you back into the Coliseum seeing that court. And the thing I loved about our Classic night on the opener, did you hear the organ?
Yeah.
One of the most underrated elements of the whole Classic night was the organ.
Yes,
so I'll be excited for that. And then, Monday against Boston's going to be a big one, and we got some other new threads that are debuting.
Yeah, we're going to be debuting the City Edition uniforms. We saw those. They debuted last week. They were unveiled last week. They'll be debuting that night, but absolutely amazing. They're a sleek black jersey. I kind of said they have that kind of Tron effect to them.
They do, and there's something to the colors, black and teal together. I don't know what it is. We've tapped into it a little bit over the last couple of years with the special Buzz City uniforms, but now when you see those 2 colors, almost almost monochromatic, almost in a way, where it's just all black, when you get the teal and you get the striping and the accents around the arms and the neckline and all that. It just looks great. It looks futuristic, to your point.
Yes.
And we're kind of paying homage to the city of flight, right? That's the theme with our Buzz City uniforms this year. And they look so futuristic. Like, it looks like you're taking off into space with these uniforms.
Yeah, there's so many good things going on right now around Charlotte, folks. Thank you again for tuning in to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. For Chris Kroger, for head coach James Borrego, I'm Matt Ruchinski for Hornets.com.
Be here. To get your 2018 season membership, call 704 Hornets. This is Buzz City.